Hey, they're going to have a press conference after 3. I don't know if you heard that. After 3, press conference.
After 3?
After 3. Sometime.
Over there?
Yeah. He didn't give an exact time. He said after 3. Yeah, some police officer came up and said it. I don't know who it was.
Thank you.
So Daryl is still on his, but he has problems with God.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Must be over. They're already over.
I have to run back to get my IP real quick. So like that.
Grab your mics.
Okay.
Got one?
Yes, I have one. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll
They
take
kind of
the
want
other.
us live at 3, they said.
Okay. You better run then.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry about the mic stand then. Forget it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think that if Mercedes is here right now, she should focus on the press conference because that's going to happen.
Where is this? She needed it, I think.
Somebody was communicating. I mean, I can be on the phone with them if necessary.
We're gonna write.
I haven't even. I got it. Which I know they messaged me. Yeah, they all got them earlier on the parking lot they were at.
Yeah.
Do you know what ISFP?
I have no idea. I'm live YouTube. I don't have IP because he's got my phone.
It's okay, I got it.
You know, I don't have Unity or anything.
I called in already. I can hardly hear them. It's not good.
It's kind of...
Yes, it's you guys are really low. I can hear you. Multiple. So I'm gonna hop off camera real quick so I can read.
It's
All right.
kind of starting to clear out. Like,
Should I?
no, I'm saying it's starting to, like, there's not as many people out there. I think it's over is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Multiple people were shot. Stand by. No, but we are going to have a press briefing in just a few minutes. Hopefully we'll be able to learn and confirm some more details with that press briefing. I have yet to learn who is going to be heading that press briefing and who we will hear from. But as soon as we gather those details, I will be sharing them with you guys. Okay, sorry.
Hey, sorry. No, you could go
I heard the
behind
sign
me.
off and I thought it was good, but
You see all those people? They're all Kroger employees.
They're giving them water and stuff. Maybe you feel free to walk through. Sure. Yeah,
I was
it's
trying
fine.
to tell him that he dropped his glasses. That's why I was pointing at the ground. He picked them up, right?
Yeah, you can walk through. I'm good. Sheila, she felt like across the street.
I don't know, but she was right behind me. So where's Terrence? Is with him?
Tears here. Kelly's down there.
I saw Kelly. She came with Sheila. Dang.
But Terrence has a background.
Yeah, I haven't had a chip. I'm not gonna bother.
Hey, Kel, you got Sheila's phone number?
Yeah.
I want to tell her and see if somebody will talk. See if somebody will talk. We got no sound at all.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm gonna go over there with her and let me see if she has her mic.
get those details as the streets are still blocked off. We do know that Collierville High School was also put on lockdown for a brief period of time. That was out of caution or precaution, but we're being told that stay in place has been lifted and they're allowed to go about their business. But again, a very active scene right now. It appears to be a lot of waiting and seeing what to do. We see a lot of law enforcement officers sort of just waiting and seeing. Terrence, take a look here. What appears to be some Kroger employees, you can see them with their aprons on, are making their way out right now. We're not quite sure if they were inside at the time of the shooting or if this took place inside the store, outside the store, but they are being brought out right now. They seem to be okay. They seem to be calm. But we are still waiting to get some more information as it comes in. Of course, as we mentioned, time now is about 3:03, so in just a matter of minutes, we hope to get that press conference and get the latest details of what happened here at this Kroger in Collierville. Kim, back to you.
All right, Kelly, thank you very much. And as Kelly said, there is scheduled to be a news conference in about 7 minutes from now. It's scheduled to begin at 3:10 this afternoon. We are waiting to get word about how many victims there are or the extent of their injuries. We're also waiting to hear about the shooter who was likely involved in this. What happened to the shooter? Did the shooter leave the scene? But right now, it would appear that things at that Kroger have calmed down. But earlier today, around 1:45, when all this happened, the Collierville High School, which was nearby, was placed on lockdown, meaning students could not leave, and no one was allowed in the school, and no one was allowed out of the school. That, of course, has since been lifted. Some area businesses, Kelly showed you some of the business there nearby. They put themselves on lockdown as well until they could figure out what was going on and whether or not it was safe. But apparently they are all feeling safe at this point in time that this scene is at least there are a number of law enforcement officers on the scene to help protect the scene and keep order. You can see there people gathering probably to talk to police. We're not sure. Some of them had on Kroger uniforms. You can see the Kroger aprons. We're not sure if they were in the store or just now arriving for work and learning what has happened there in the store. But again, if you're just joining us, this is a live picture from the scene of the Collierville Target store on Byhalia Road, 240 Kroger store, the Collierville Kroger store at 240 Byhalia Road. A shooting there. Multiple victims, we've been told, have been taken to area hospitals. One went to the Baptist Collierville. Most of the others have been taken here to this, where you see this live picture, Regional 1 here in Memphis. Usually that's where you take, as Kelly said, the most seriously injured go to Regional 1 because they have a top-notch critical care unit there for gunshot wounds and the like. And you can see there are people milling about, an ambulance with lights flashing. But right now, the outside of Regional 1 right now is relatively quiet as well. But we are waiting now for a news conference to begin in about 5 minutes from now. This, again, a live picture from the scene at the Kroger there at Collierville. You can see an ambulance there on standby, and it looks like several workers from that Kroger there on the scene. There's another scene off to the side where a bunch of workers are standing. It looks as though they are being informed as to what happened, perhaps being told not to talk to media, but we're not sure at this point in time again, how many people were injured, who was injured, and who that shooter could be. This is all still being worked out at this point in time, but hopefully we'll get answers to some of these questions within the next few minutes. Again, to recap, a shooting at the Kroger store on Byhalia Road. There you see video of people. They appear to be comforting each other, perhaps praying, encouraging each other after what had to be a horrifying afternoon at the Kroger store on Byhalia Road in Collierville. Again, multiple victims taken to area hospitals. This one, Regional 1 here in Memphis, most of the victims taken there. We're also told at least one victim was taken to the Baptist Hospital in Collierville. And the Collierville High School, which is not too far from the scene there, was on lockdown. Collierville High School, of course, near Shelby Drive and south by Halier Road. That lockdown has since ended. This all happened initially around 1:45 this afternoon. Again, a live picture there. You can see law enforcement officers, Shelby County Sheriff's deputies, Collierville Police. We were told that Memphis Police are there helping as well. There you see an ATF agent just arriving on the scene there to help sort things out. Shelby County Sheriff's deputies. We, again, are waiting to find out the very latest. A news conference scheduled in just a few moments from now. We have also reached out to multiple law enforcement agencies for the latest, and of course they are still working on gathering all that information, and will release what information they can to us coming up in about 2 minutes from now. We have multiple crews on the scene. You saw, just spoke with Briseda Holgan, spoke just moments ago, telling us what was going on there. She was on the parking lot there at that Kroger, away, quite a distance away, but still on the parking lot. We have Kelly Cook there, who was on the scene as well, right off of Byhalia Road, keeping track of the happenings there as well. Again, this Kroger location is 240 New Byhalia Road. We've reached, as I mentioned, ATF agents are there as well to give us the latest, to help sort through all of this that has happened at this store. We've heard of multiple shootings throughout this summer, throughout the years, but it really touches home when it really touches us even more so when it comes this close to home here in our area. Action News 5's Joe Birch is joining me here now in the studio to talk about what's going on here in Collierville. What a day, Joe.
What a day, Kim. And so this is what we know at this point, just before 1 o'clock. A live shooter, an active shooter, opened fire either inside or outside that Kroger at 240 New Byhalia Road in Collierville. There are multiple victims. We don't know how many victims, but we know that at least one air ambulance from Hospital Wing was dispatched to the parking lot and has carried a victim from the scene. We do know that one, as Kim reported, one victim went to the Baptist Hospital in Collierville, and multiple victims have been rushed to the Regional Trauma Center at Regional 1 in the Memphis Medical Center, where we saw Dr. Reginald Coopwood, who's the CEO of Regional 1 a short time ago, out directing traffic in the apron of the driveway there at the ER. Dr. Coopwood was directing. That's an unprecedented sight from, as far as my knowledge goes, when the CEO comes out to make sure that traffic is being directed properly. And he wanted, I assume, a handle on just how many victims would be coming in. We don't know the number, but it's a significant number because many ambulances were rushed there to that parking lot. We've seen ambulances from the Memphis Fire Department. We've seen ambulances from the Germantown Fire Department. We've seen, obviously, Collierville's Fire Department ambulances responded here. Here's some information we received from a viewer who's on the parking lot, Kim, who is there among the law enforcement agencies, as we see there on the right, the Collierville Police Department Command Center there with a large antenna thrust up into the air in order to give a camera view for officers inside that headquarters to see a full big picture of what's going on there, and also to provide radio contact with all of the Collierville police officers and all the other law enforcement agencies. We understand, according to a witness on the scene, law enforcement agents from Collierville and Memphis, as well as the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, went car by car, truck by truck, vehicle by vehicle, and searched each one of them that are parked there on the parking lot at 240 New Byhalia Road, so that they could be assured there was no other threat in one of the cars that is parked there on that parking lot there at the Kroger. All right, we see the scene of assembled law enforcement officers, and we know there's a large contingent of Memphis police officers out in Collierville. That's a rare event. We know the Shelby County Sheriff's Department is helping control the perimeter of the parking lot. Clearly, and the Collierville police are taking the lead at this moment there from their command center as they investigate an active shooter who opened fire, and several victims were hit. We don't know the extent of their injuries. We don't know the number of people.
That's right. And we also have ATF agents on the scene as well. And of course, we know that ATF agents are highly trained, elite law enforcement officers who investigate violations of federal laws and regulations related to criminal misuse of firearms and explosives. So to have them on the scene here indicates that this will be a very thorough investigation today, Joe.
And this is one of the idyllic communities in the Mid-South, Collierville, Tennessee. It's filled with families. It's filled with upwardly mobile people. FedEx has a big facility out there, and a lot of their tech workers are there at a beautiful campus in Collierville. This is a store that thousands of people use every week and have done so safely for years and years. And here this afternoon we see a huge throng of law enforcement officers and first responders who have begun a tough task, trying to figure out just exactly what happened today. We don't know if there's surveillance video from the cameras there at the Kroger of precisely what happened, but clearly investigators will be looking to see what pictures that they can share. We don't know the status of the shooter. We don't know whether the shooter
was shot. Our SWAT team, along with patrol officers and our command staff members, began the process of going aisle to aisle, room to room, clearing, bringing employees out that were in hiding, and helping the victims that were injured. At this time, we still have a couple of active scenes that we are working. The suspected shooter's vehicle is in the parking lot, and we are waiting on some additional equipment to get here to be able to safely check that vehicle, as well as some property that's on him. At this time, the shooter is deceased. We believe that's going to be from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We have 13 victims. Hearts go out to those that were injured. We do have one fatality, and our thoughts and prayers are with those family members. We had, like I said, we had 13 victims that we know of at this time. Now, please bear with me and know that this situation is probably going to change, and we'll do another update, another briefing, probably in 3 hours, somewhere in that range, and we'll update you. But we know that we've had 12 victims that were transported from this scene, and we also know that we've had at least one additional walk up to local hospitals. Today I have Assistant Chief Jeff Abelin with me, our Fire Chief at Collierville, Chief Billings, his Assistant Chief King, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Jeremy Baker with the FBI. We have Colonel Smith with MPD, Chief Inspector Mills, Derek Mills with Shelby County. And I can't say enough about the cooperation and the help. And as bad as this scene is, and it's horrific. I've been involved in this for 34 years, and I've never seen anything like it. But our teams came together and worked together. That's not just the law enforcement agencies, but the fire. Sometimes there's a delay. There was no delay with our firemen coming into that scene with us. We just trained on this back 2 months ago at Collierville High School. So it is, it's like I said, it's with a broken heart that I have to stand here before you today. So please keep the families in your prayers. Keep the folks from this Kroger. We have a representative from Kroger here as well. I'm not sure if they're going to give a statement at this point, but everything is preliminary. So with that, I'll open it up for just a couple of real quick questions. One at a time. At this point in the investigation, it appears to be one shooter.
And the deceased
person was that the shooter or was that?
Both. We have one victim and then one shooter that's DOA at this point.
And so just to clarify, 13 people shot and of those 12 injured and 1 dead, correct?
Right.
Not counting.
At this point. Now remember, we're still receiving information that's coming in from other parts. Even we've got some reports there may have been some walk-ups in Fayette County with Fayette County Ambulance Service, so we're trying to confirm that information now. But this, like I said, this was a joint effort. We had Chief Billings can speak more to the number of ambulances and where they come from, but every city around came and supported the sheriff. Right now, that crime scene is huge, and it's being worked by the FBI's evidence response team. TBI's got agents en route. The Collierville Police Department Detective Division, or Criminal Investigative Division, is in there, and the sheriff's office. So it's going to take a little bit to know exactly what happened.
Chief, was the shooter an employee or did you?
That's part of the ongoing investigation. That's something that we don't need to talk about.
Connected to the shooter?
It's all still under investigation.
Were there any children who were injured, any minors?
I do not have any information on that at this point, not to my knowledge, but
Do you have a range of extent of injuries from minor to severe?
very serious injuries.
And Chief, do you have any idea how many people were in the store at the time?
I do not at this point, but we know that we have quite a few witnesses. We're bringing in additional detectives for people that were in the store. There were numerous employees that were working. I know we found people hiding in freezers and in locked offices, and they were doing what they had been trained to do: run, hide, fight. And so, I hate that we had to do it here.
Chief, was the shooter found inside the store or outside?
That's part of the investigation. I don't want to get into that.
Can you give us an idea? Can you give us an idea of what kind of weapon he was using?
No.
I'm saying it was big.
I'm not going to go into that at this point. Let's get through the investigation. Remember, we're 2 hours away from the most horrific event that's occurred in Collierville history.
Was there any incident that happened prior to the shooting and the altercation?
That's part of this investigation.
Chief, there's an image circulating on social media about a person who is suspected to be the suspect on the top of the building. Can you confirm or deny that?
I cannot. I can tell you this. I was part of a team that extricated an employee of Kroger from the top of the building, so it's more than likely going to be a Kroger employee that was working on the roof.
Chief, what's just the aftermath of this for this community, these employees you were just mentioning? How does this rank in Collierville history right now, what you're all dealing with right now?
I mean, obviously, it's like every other community in the country. It's horrific. We hate that it happened, but this is one of the most resilient communities in America, and one of the best police departments. I'm very thankful. I watched guys that ran into the front of that building, knowing that historically, not in this case, but historically, many of these shooters have very high-powered rifles, and not one of them hesitated going in that front door.
Chief, we saw you. Were you meeting with the employees over here? And are they okay? How are they responding?
I have met with some as we were bringing them out of the building. I have not talked with all of them. So, yes, ma'am. Okay. I tell you what we're going to do. We'll take one more question, and then we're going to pause this for about 3 hours. So, anybody else? One last question. Yes, ma'am.
All the victims, are they at regional clinics?
No, they're spread out among all the area hospitals.
And because we're getting ready to leave, what equipment are you waiting? Do you need to go in his car? Do you need some equipment to check the shooter's car?
That's part of the investigation. So we're going to hold that right now. What we don't want to do is create unnecessary fear. Okay. All right. Thank everybody. I appreciate you.
No, hold on. Just thank you. Here's the mic. I gotta give you my mic. They look the same. I'm coming again. Stay in the front, man.
Well, Yvonne, you really just summed up one of the most notable comments from Chief Dale Lane just a second ago, saying it's one of the most horrific criminal events in Collierville history. He talked about these first responders being resilient, knowing that a lot of these amputated.
That's part of the investigation. So we're going to hold that right now. What we don't want to do is create unnecessary fear. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you.
You've been listening to the Collierville Police Chief news conference to talk about this shooting that happened at that Kroger store there on New Byhalia Road, 240 New Byhalia Road in Collierville. What he said was at least 13 people were shot at that Kroger. One of them died, and the shooter apparently dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
So 2 people dead so far. The shooter apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and one of his victims there in the Kroger store. We do know from the police chief, Dale Lane, that the shooting took place inside the store, and employees hid in freezers and offices and all the places that they could hide. And this happened at 1:30, according to the chief. At 1:30 this afternoon, the report came in that there was an active shooter. At 1:34, Collierville police arrived on the scene. SWAT went aisle to aisle. SWAT team officers went aisle to aisle and got the store shoppers as well as the employees to safety and went on the hunt for the shooter. Not clear exactly what the sequence of events of when the shooter apparently took his own life, but it was clearly after he had wounded at least 13 people.
Right, and the chief seemed to indicate that all of the injuries were very serious. It was all he would say as to the extent of the injuries, that they were the injured who were taken to area hospitals. It was very serious injuries who were transported anyway. Also, he mentioned that there were several scenes they were working, several active scenes, right. One of which being the shooter's car that was still in the parking lot there, that they needed to check it out and try and open it and clear it safely. They had to check it out for any booby traps or anything like that before they could get inside the vehicle.
And then he also mentioned that there may be some walk-ins in Fayette County, meaning some of the people who were victims of this shooting may have left Collierville, which is very close to the Marshall County, Mississippi and Fayette County, Tennessee county lines. And he may have these folks who were at this store and shop here because it's so handy, may have gone to their doctor or other healthcare professionals in Fayette County as they got out of Dodge, so to speak,
right.
And to try to stay safe. The FBI is on the scene, along with the MPD, Shelby County Sheriff, TBI, and the Chief Dale Lane there says teams came together and worked together, and he said they had just trained for an active shooter situation at the Collierville High School 2 months ago, according to Chief Dale Lane. Just 2 months ago. Unfortunately, this is the kind of thing that police have to practice for when these events take place.
Right. Right now we have Action News 5's Kelly Cook standing by. She's on the scene to kind of wrap things up for us there, Kelly.
Yeah. Make sure that I'm still on. We just came out of the press conference. We did have, as you just heard, 13 victims that were just identified from Chief Lane from Collierville Police. What he is calling, he says, this will be the worst incident in Collierville history, and his heart breaks and thinks about the family members of those 13 victims, one that lost their life. Also, the shooter in this case, they believe they found inside of his car what they believe to be a self-inflicted gun shot wound. Let's take a quick look at what's happening right now. Things are a bit quieter here. Lots of meeting amongst officials here. You see Chief Lane over here and some other officers with MPD, Shelby County Sheriff's Office, Collierville Police, Germantown, all here offering their help. Kroger representative is here as well to try to piece together exactly what happened inside this Kroger just off New Byhalia Road. You know, at this time, they're telling us the active scene. They do believe they have the vehicle in which the shooter was in. They're not going into it just yet, we're being told, because they're waiting for some equipment to arrive so they can safely do that. I did ask Chief Lane if he could explain what that meant. He just says that's a part of the investigation, but they want to be able to get inside and hopefully learn some more information about what led up to this shooting and the details inside. Some really terrifying moments in there when he was talking about folks in there. They found them hiding inside freezers. They went into offices and locked the door, just trying to stay safe when this gunman or gunwoman walked inside and started firing shots, again hitting 13 people. I spoke to one woman just over here who had come up here, like so many other people I'm sure, terrified about their loved ones who they know work inside this Kroger. I asked her, is her loved one okay? She said, it's my mother-in-law. I wanted to make sure she was okay. She did make contact with her. She said she was fine. Her mother-in-law heard the gunshots. She immediately hit the ground when she heard it. She works inside of the deli, and it's just really scared and terrified, as I can imagine. She said she's hearing a lot of details about exactly what happened, but we are waiting for the investigation to come to an end right now. Again, we are expecting our next briefing to happen in the next 3 hours or so. They're going to get together, hopefully get inside that car, the shooter's car, and maybe we can get some more details. As I mentioned before, we saw what appeared to be some workers from Kroger. They're still kind of gathered over there. He says they got to talk and interview all of those people who are outside the store that can tell them what happened. So that is a big deal. They're having to bring in some detectives from all over in order to come in, talk to some of these witnesses to figure out exactly what happened. We've got crews spread out all over this place to get the very latest details and talk to folks to see what's happening. Of course, we'll bring that to you live as soon as we get more information. Kim, Joe.
All right, thanks very much. Kelly Cook reporting live from 240 New Byhalia Road, the scene of what Chief Dale Lane called the most horrific event in the history of Collierville. Took place around 1:30 this afternoon when a gunman opened fire inside this Kroger store that was filled with employees and shoppers and randomly shot and killed at least one person and wounded very seriously, according to Chief Lane, some 12 others. There may be other injuries involved here. We don't know. As Chief said, this is an ongoing event. In other words, it's still developing. We don't know the total number of people who may have been wounded on this scene because they went to various healthcare facilities in the regional medical center here in Memphis, as well as other sites at hospitals, including the Baptist Hospital in Collierville.
Chief Lane mentioned, how this is just something that you see happening in other places throughout the country, and here it has come home now here in Collierville. Collierville, a relatively a quiet city as far as crime is concerned, but crime, this is a big story here for Collierville, a big blow for Collierville, for the entire Mid-South actually. 13 people shot, 1 killed, the shooter dead at this time. You know, you think about it, all of us shop, just about all of us shop at Kroger at one point or another, and you just think about the terror those people must have felt going about their business on a regular day, shopping, and then gunshots ring out. I cannot imagine the terror and the horror that they all face today.
It's a beautiful September Thursday afternoon in Collierville, and they're out on Thursday doing Thursday things, going to the grocery store, running their errands, and they end up at this horrific event where one person has lost his life and a dozen other people suffered serious injuries from a gunman who opened fire inside a Kroger store. We don't know the gunman's name. We don't know anything about him. Age, we don't know anything in relation to motive. Of course, it's way too early for the police to be talking about that sort of thing. And right now, it's believed, I believe Kelly Cook said that the shooter apparently is deceased inside his vehicle there on the parking lot. And so police are being very careful about opening that vehicle because it may have a trap of some kind and perhaps an explosive attached to it. And so police want to use extreme caution. So I'm sure the bomb squad and they have the FBI evidence team is going to be there on the scene. And so the top professionals in our region of America who have to address tragic scenes like this are on site there in Collierville at 240 New Byhalia Road. try to figure out their next move.
Exactly. So now comes the job of trying to determine who that shooter was, why that shooter did what he did, and then took his own life. Was it a targeted shooting, or was it just random? Those are details that the law enforcement officers on the scene now will begin to try and piece together for us as we try to stay abreast of what is going on as well. Again, this is a live picture of Regional 1 here in Memphis, where some of the most seriously injured victims were likely taken for treatment. Regional 1 has a level 1 trauma center, which is among the best in the country. So therefore, they can treat those victims. Probably the best place to take those victims here in the Mid-South.
And Dr. Coopwood himself, Reginald Coopwood, MD, was on site directing traffic there in the apron of the emergency room driveway there, helping to direct traffic because he saw a significant number of victims. Let's listen in now to a religious member of an ordained person to share his observations.
Their stuff, that they would just be beset by such evil and such tragedy. And I minister to the people here at Collierville, and I wanted to be here for them, for the police officers, for the first responders, for the people in general, and remind them that even in the midst of all this evil, Jesus has come and Jesus will come again, and he provides that eternal hope for us, that eternal peace in a world that has no peace to offer. And I'm here to just provide that hope to people who are affected by this situation.
And have you often go inside this Kroger?
Well, yeah, it is my regular community Kroger. This is where we do our regular shopping, and you can't see it, but we're a 5-minute walk that way. So this is just right in the heart of our community.
I'm sorry to ask you to repeat this. Could you repeat your name and your church? I'm sorry.
Clayton Sellers, Faith Lutheran Church, Collierville, Tennessee.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry, we just. It's all right.
I'm going to get to a live interview. We were listening to a live interview from the scene of a mass shooting at a Kroger store in Collierville, 240 New Byhalia Road, where at least 13 people were shot, one of them killed, and 12 others seriously injured, according to the police chief. We also know that the shooter in this incident was found dead in his vehicle, according to our Kelly Cook on the scene, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. This is a picture now, a video actually, of an ambulance leaving the scene there. And you have been noticing perhaps the number of law enforcement officers on the scene there investigating at this time. Continue to bring you all these our newsroom.
Dale Lane, the police chief in Collierville, said that his officers went aisle by aisle, step by step, and helped Collierville's Kroger employees who were hiding in freezers and in offices, locking themselves down, as they were trained to do, undoubtedly. They were protecting themselves. The 12 victims we believe to be shoppers as well as Kroger employees. We don't know exactly who they are at this point, but it had to be one or the other. And so we understand there are no children who are victims, according to Dale Lane, the police chief there in Collierville. He said at this time he does not believe any children were wounded in this shooting. So all the victims are adults. One person killed, a dozen other people wounded, and the chief says they were wounded seriously. So they were rushed to area hospitals via hospital wing, which flew into Collierville and carried them to Regional 1 Medical Center. Let's listen in now to another live interview.
I'm sad because I'm about to cry, but other than that, I'm okay. I'm okay. I've been through everything. This right here took the cake. Telling me I gotta go. I gotta go because I've been here for 32 years. I gotta go.
Was this something you thought about when you heard it, like, I gotta grab people and take them to safety?
Yes.
So it was kind of, or was it a reaction?
It was a reaction.
Because you were working the register when you heard the pops. Wow. Where did the pops come from? The back of the store?
No, deli.
Is that towards the front?
Yes, towards the front end. And if you get the description, that's the deli part right there. Deli and produce is right there. And when I heard the gunshots, it was coming down, and I was on register 17, which is like in the middle of the store. And when I heard and I got off that register, I said, oh no, these are gunshots. I got out of there. Mm-hmm. And whoever was in front of me, I grabbed them and just took off.
And then the shooter followed you guys?
Yes. Yes. Through the meat department door. I went through the meat department door. Mm-hmm. No, I went through the door where our break room is. Mm-hmm. I said, don't stop in the break room, because he's gonna come in there and start shooting. Mm-hmm. So I went all the way around through the back, and there was a big opening where the receiving department, where we bring in deliveries. Mm-hmm. I went through that and went through outside, and that's when I went and said, that's the only safe haven we got, because it was older people that was with me, and I didn't want them to start running and start, getting hurt and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I just stopped right there. Mm-hmm. I didn't go nowhere.
And then he followed y'all back in there?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Followed us all the way back in there.
And then the police came?
That's when the police came.
Do you want to say anything else before we wrap this up?
Be happy where you are and bless God. Let God bless you and keep you in good health and strength. I know I don't go to church, but I do believe in God, and I believe in everybody that loves everybody. Just love yourself and love everyone. Don't be mean to everybody. Just be happy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Live interview from the scene of a shooting at the Kroger in Collierville on New Byhalia Road. That was a woman who worked as a cashier in the Kroger, and she said that when the shooter came in, she immediately left her post and started gathering people to take with her and ran to the back of the store to try and get away, and said the shooter followed her. They ran all the way outside, I guess is what she said, because she didn't want to stop in the break room because she figured he was coming after them. And fortunately, they got outside, and she said that's when the police came in. So perhaps that's what stopped him from shooting any of them as well.
That's right. And so she said she went outside through the receiving door. And so that's how they were able to get to safety. As we look at an individual there checking his phone, sitting in the curb of the parking lot at the Collierville Kroger at 240 New Byhalia Road, where the police chief said the most horrific event in the history of Collierville took place starting at 1:30 this afternoon, when an active shooter opened fire inside this store, where there are plenty of shoppers doing their Thursday grocery shopping, as well as the entire on-duty staff. Many of the victims, a dozen total victims, some of them rushed here to the Regional 1 Medical Center in the Memphis Medical Center, where they're being treated right now for what Chief Dale Lane calls serious injuries. So they were shot at short range, undoubtedly. They're inside that store, and that Kroger employee bravely was able to lead some, she said, older shoppers, customers from the store out through past the break room, out the receiving door, where they were able to get outside and get to safety.
Yeah, Joe, we cover these stories all the time in other parts of the country, and it's hard to cover them even when it's in other parts of the country. Now it has come home here to Memphis, and we are now national news, as CNN is reporting on this shooting now, and I'm sure all of the other NBC Nightly News and all of the other national news organizations are also following this story as well. 13 people shot at a Kroger on Byhalia Road in Collierville, one of them dead. The shooter dead from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. We don't know at this time who that shooter was, why that shooter did what they did today, why today. These are all things that we are trying to learn. Police are working right now to get into the shooter's car that is parked on the parking lot. Kelly Cook mentioned that the shooter, his body was inside of his vehicle when police arrived there on the scene. They are waiting for the right equipment to open up the vehicle because they don't know if that vehicle is booby-trapped or not, because they don't even know why this person did what they did. But these are all the questions that we will hope to get answers to very shortly as this investigation continues. But again, 13 people shot, 1 person known dead, 12 seriously injured, and the shooter is also dead at this time.
And we know the FBI is on the scene. Their evidence recovery team is here, as well as the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, as well as the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, a large contingent of Memphis police officers, and, of course, the Collierville Police Department taking the lead on this, with Chief Dale Lane calling this the most horrific event in the history of Collierville. All the national news agencies, including the New York Times, are reporting on this story right now. CNN, NBC News, and it's a national story when something of this magnitude happens, when 12 people are wounded and at least 1 person is killed in this kind of a situation these days. It rings alarms and reminds us how dangerous this world is.
Definitely.
And just normal Thursday afternoon in Collierville, folks doing their grocery shopping at a beautiful supermarket in one of our most sublime and gorgeous suburbs.
On a beautiful day.
On a gorgeous day. On an absolutely gorgeous September day. And there we see the pine trees and the cars parked outside the Collierville Kroger store at 240 New Byhalia Road, where tragedy unfolded this afternoon starting at 1:30 p.m.
Right. Just a short time ago, the police chief, Collierville Police Chief Dale Lane, held a news conference and answered a number of questions. We'd like to let you see that again right now.
And I can't say enough about the cooperation and the help. And as bad as this scene is, and it's horrific. I've been involved in this for 34 years, and I've never seen anything like it. But our teams came together and worked together. That's not just the law enforcement agencies, but the fire. Sometimes there's a delay. There was no delay with our firemen coming into that scene with us. We just trained on this back 2 months ago at Collierville High School. So it is, just like I said, it's with a broken heart that I have to stand here before you today. So please keep the families in your prayers. Keep the folks from this Kroger. We have a representative from Kroger here as well. I'm not sure if they're going to give a statement at this point, but everything is preliminary. So with that, I'll open it up for just a couple of real quick questions. One at a time. At this point in the investigation, it appears to be 1 shooter.
And the deceased person, was that the shooter or was that the victim?
Both. We have one victim and then 1 shooter that's DOA at this point.
And so just to clarify, 13 people shot and of those 12 injured in 1 day, correct?
Right.
Not counting the
At this point. Now remember, we're still receiving information that's coming in from other parts. Even we've got some reports there may have been some walk-ups in Fayette County with Fayette County Ambulance Service. So we're trying to confirm that information now. But this, like I said, this was a joint effort. We had, Chief Billings can speak more to the number of ambulances and where they come from, but every city around came and supported. The sheriff right now, that crime scene is huge, and it's being worked by the FBI's evidence response team. TBI's got agents en route. The Collierville Police Department Detective Division, or our Criminal Investigative Division, is in there, and the Sheriff's Office. So it's going to take a little bit to know exactly what happened.
Chief, was the shooter an employee or do you know yet?
That's part of the ongoing investigation. That's something that we don't need to talk about.
Black SUV connected to the shooter?
It's all still under investigation.
Were there any children who were injured in the night?
I do not have any information on that at this point, not to my knowledge, but
Do you have a range of extent of injuries from minor to severe?
they're very serious injuries.
And Chief, do you have any idea how many people were in the store at the time?
I do not at this point, but we know that we have quite a few witnesses. We're bringing in additional detectives for people that were in the store. There were numerous employees that were working. I know we found people hiding in freezers and in locked offices, and they were doing what they had been trained to do: run, hide, fight. And so, I hate that we had to do it here.
Was the shooter found inside the store or outside?
That's part of the investigation. I don't want to get into that.
Can you give us an idea? Can you give us an idea of what kind of weapon he was using?
No.
You're saying it was big.
I'm not going to go into that at this point. Let's get through the investigation. Remember, we're 2 hours away from the most horrific event that's occurred in Collierville history.
Was there any incident that happened prior to the shooting in the altercation?
That's part of this investigation.
Chief, there's an image circulating on social media about a person who is suspected to be the suspect on the top of the building. Can you confirm or deny that?
I cannot. I can tell you this. I was part of a team that extricated an employee of Kroger from the top of the building, so it's more than likely going to be a Kroger employee that was working on the roof.
Chief, what's just the aftermath of this for this community, these employees you were just mentioning? How does this rank in Collierville history right now, what you're all dealing with right now?
I mean, obviously, it's like every other community in the country. It's horrific. We hate that it happened, but this is one of the most resilient communities in America, and one of the best police departments. I'm very thankful. I watch guys that ran into the front of that building, knowing that historically, not in this case, but historically, many of these shooters have very high-powered rifles, and not one of them hesitated going in that front door.
Chief, we saw you. Were you meeting with the employees over here, and are they okay? How are they responding?
I have met with some as we were bringing them out of the building. I have not talked with all of them. So, yes, ma'am. Okay. I tell you what we're going to do. We'll take one more question, and then we're gonna pause this for about 3 hours. So, anybody else? One last question. Yes, ma'am.
All the victims, are they at regional perimeter?
No, they're spread out among all the area hospitals.
And because we're getting ready, what equipment are you waiting? Do you need to go in his car? Do you need some equipment to check the shooter's car?
That's part of the investigation. So we're going to hold that right now. What we don't want to do is create unnecessary fear. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you.
That was the police chief of Collierville, Tennessee, Dale Lane, at his news conference a short time ago. And here you see a graphic that shows the locations now of the victims. One person went to the Collierville Baptist Hospital, which is a large campus right there, not far from the Kroger store. Methodist Hospital so far has not received a patient. Labonte Children's Hospital says no patients, but they're on standby, ready to help any way they can. And at Regional 1, where we saw so many ambulances lined up, 9 patients. 4 of them are critical, 5 non-critical, so that's good to hear.
Definitely.
That we have 5 people at least who are not suffering critical injuries. A grand total of 12 injuries that we know of, so we don't know where that other person is. So we have 10 patients accounted for there in this graphic. We don't know where the other 2 at Regional 1.
Right.
We understand they're at Regional 1. And we have Joyce Peterson joining us now live from Regional 1 with the very latest from our Level 1 Trauma Center. Joyce?
Yeah, Joe and Kim, it's been very calm, very orderly here. We know that 9 victims from the shooting at the Collierville Kroger were brought here to Regional 1. This is the best trauma unit in the Mid-South. This is where gunshot victims typically come for treatment. 9 victims brought here by ambulance. As you just said, 5 of them are in critical condition, 4 are in non-critical condition. All of those ambulances were still lined up on the street here when I arrived. They have since left. Also behind me, you may see see a Memphis police car or two. Earlier, there were many more police cars. They were here for quite some time. Most of them have left. We have not seen any frantic relatives rush in or anything like that. Again, it's been very calm, very orderly. The staff here at Regional 1 was ready and waiting in the ambulance port when these ambulances arrived, so they were ready to treat these patients when they got here. Again, 5 critical, 4 non-critical from the shooting at the Kroger in Collierville. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. Reporting live at Regional 1, I'm Joyce Peterson. Joe, Kim, back to you in the studio.
All right, Joyce.
Thanks very much, Joyce. And we are here reporting live to you today. And let's just reset, Kim, on everything we know about this situation. At 1:30 this afternoon, according to the Collierville Police Chief Dale Lane, they received a report of an active shooter inside the Kroger location at 240 New Byhalia Road. At 1:34 p.m., Collierville police officers arrived, and Chief Dale Lane says his officers did not waste a second going inside that store where there was an active shooter actively pulling the trigger and causing severe injuries, critical and serious injuries of people. We know that 12 people were wounded and 1 person was killed. The shooter ultimately took his own life, according to Chief Dale Lane, and his body is currently inside his vehicle on the parking lot of that Kroger store at 240 New Byhalia Road. But police are being very careful about approaching that vehicle because it may be booby-trapped. There may be a bomb associated with it. They have to use every precaution. But there were employees and customers hiding in freezers, hiding in locked offices, making their escape through the receiving door, running past the break room there in the back of the store, and moving to the receiving deck outside where the dock is located, where they receive groceries, and folks ran for their safety, led by one of the cashiers that we heard.
We heard from her earlier. She said that she was at her job, at her post, at her cashier, at her cash register rather, when the gunman came in and started shooting. She immediately left her post and gathered up as many people as she could. She said many of them elderly, and ushered them to the back of the store. She said she almost stopped in the break room, but said he was following them, and she felt that he would come in there if they stopped there. So she continued on through, as Joe mentioned, through receiving outside the store, which shortly thereafter, she said, is when police came in the store, which may have stopped that gunman from following them all the way and claiming more victims. But again, right now, this is a live picture of the scene. You can see police officers there trying to maintain control of the scene, as well as talking to witnesses to get all the details they can. Again, 13 people, at least 13 people injured here at this Kroger store in Collierville on New Byhalia Road this afternoon. It all started about 1:30 this afternoon, and it has affected just about everyone in that vicinity. The school, the high school, Collierville High School near there, went on lockdown shortly after this happened, not allowing kids to leave the campus and not allowing anyone to come onto the campus for at least several minutes. That has been lifted. Several businesses in the area reported going on lockdown themselves after seeing what was happening and hearing what was happening, and they are now not locked down, but are wondering how this could happen in Collierville, Tennessee today, of all days, any day in Collierville, any day in the Mid-South. I'm sure that's what most people in these situations ask themselves. How can this happen? Why does it continue to happen? Another mass shooting in America, this time here at home in Collierville, Tennessee.
And as our live camera gives you a view of the scene right here, we do know that one of the witnesses says that police searched car by car, truck by truck, van by van, every vehicle that was parked here on the parking lot of this Kroger, just to see if there were any other possible shooters, any other troublemakers who were part of this. And apparently this was the act of one individual with one gun, or we don't know how many weapons, opened fire today, killing at least one other person, wounding some 12 others, and then ultimately, according to authorities, taking his own life. What an incredible scene here. The Collierville police chief called it one of the most horrific event that's ever occurred in the history of Collierville.
But he also mentioned how resilient Collierville is.
Absolutely.
And the people in it as well. Joe, we have a map to kind of show people the scene if you're not from Collierville, so you can see where this all took place. As I said, it was at 240 New Byhalia Road is where the Kroger is located. Here's a map to give you some idea of where that Kroger is located. It's kind of difficult for me to read the street signs. Can you see them, Joe?
Yes, it's New Byhalia right there is what that road is. You know, it's not far from Poplar. I mean, if you're in Collierville, you're never really that far from Poplar. And so it's you know, the busiest street. And then we have the 72, which takes you down to Byhalia and Marshall County right there. So that's the highway, the 4-lane highway that's on the bottom part of this screen right here.
But as you can see from that traffic map too, Joe, that the traffic it's congested in that area near where the main roads there, near where this Kroger is located. So you probably want to avoid that area if you have business in Collierville today. If you can, try to avoid that area, because I'm sure there are a lot of streets blocked off right now as police investigate this mass shooting in Collierville.
Well, this is the scene today in Collierville, Tennessee, as we are awaiting more details. Chief Dale Lane says he'll come back in the 6 o'clock hour, some 3 hours from the time he did his initial news conference, to share with us more details and more developments on just exactly what happened. But here we see some of perhaps the families of customers, employees, first responders on site, concerned about the well-being of their loved ones who were inside the store waiting outside this Kroger at 240 New Byhalia Road, waiting to find out just exactly the status of their loved ones and exactly what happened. But a lot of employees it takes to run this store. A lot of people to work a big store like this in one of our major suburban municipalities. This is one of the fastest growing municipalities in the state of Tennessee, and certainly here in Shelby County, a county of 940,000 people. This is home to a huge high school, and
a brand new high school.
A brand new $80 million high school. And Chief Dale Lane says just 2 months ago, his officers did a training for an active shooter on the campus of Collierville High School in preparation for an event just as this. And he said when the time came when bullets were flying, his SWAT officers and his police officers did not hesitate a second. They stepped right through the threshold of this Kroger supermarket and went after the individual and started protecting people immediately, trying to bring people to safety, the customers and employees of this store who were terrorized by a gunman who opened fire here today at 1:30 this afternoon.
And fortunately, a number of employees there knew what to do as well to flee, to go ahead, to hide, to flee, to get customers to safety if they could. But still, 13 people shot, 5 of them critically injured, 4 non-critical, 1 person killed, the shooter dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound at that Kroger in Collierville, Tennessee today.
We're going to present more live coverage from Collierville, Tennessee, here on Action News 5, on Action News 5 at 4 o'clock. Breaking news at 4 o'clock. A dozen people shot, 1 killed in a mass shooting at the Kroger in Collierville on New Byhalia Road. This is a live look at the scene where law enforcement from across the Mid-South have gathered to assist.
This is Action News 5 at 4 o'clock. I'm Kim Clark.
And I'm Joe Birch. Joyce Peterson will join us momentarily. She is on scene at the Regional 1 Medical Center. Breaking news as part of our live team coverage this afternoon.
It has been a tragic day in Collierville. One the police chief called the most horrific event in the town's history. Action News 5's Kelly Cook joins us live now from Collierville with the latest on this breaking news. Kelly, what's happening out there now?
Well, Kim, right now is so much more quiet than it was when I first arrived on the scene. It was quite hectic and chaotic. Now it seems as if they're trying to get themselves together. I'm just going to step out the way so you can see here. It seems like things have organized a bit. You see people kind of in groups talking and meeting. Collierville Police Mobile Command Center standing right there as they meet there to discuss what to do next. Collierville Police obviously leading the investigation, but they've got a lot of help. Shelby County Sheriff's Office is here. Memphis Police is here. We've seen Germantown as well. Currently, right now, it's a bit of a waiting game, as we were told during our last update. They believe they do have the shooter's vehicle that is here at the scene. They want to take some extra precaution and make sure that they use some special equipment to go in and make sure that they do it safely. Just over here to my left here, you see what appears to be a number of Kroger employees. We have been speaking to them and kind of getting their details of what happened. I tell you this, Kim and Joe, this is probably the hardest part of this job, and this part of the investigation is the number of people I've spoken to who are here waiting to get word about their loved one. I spoke to one woman who says, my aunt works here. I spoke to someone else who works here as well, but says he was off today and wants to know whose co-workers were in there. They're wanting more details, and they keep asking, what do you know? We don't know a whole lot right now. They have not revealed that information, but it is absolutely heartbreaking to see them waiting to get the very latest information. I just spoke to one gentleman from Faith Lutheran, a church just a few feet away from here, who came here, who said, I just wanted to come here and pray for all that were involved, and pray for the folks who were shopping inside, pray for the workers who were inside. So it is a heartbreaking scene right now. Investigators saying they're going to take painstaking care to go through the store and to clear out everything that's happening inside. But again, 13 victims inside of that Kroger, majority taken to Regional 1, one that lost their life. They do believe the shooter died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We are hoping to get an update from Chief Dale Lane with Collierville Police Department in just a couple of hours. We're live here in Collierville. Kelly Cook, Action News 5.
Thanks very much, Kelly Cook. We do know the police chief said that one person was extricated from the roof. One of the employees apparently sought safety right up on top of the roof of the Kroger and was able to escape the gunman that way. Action News 5's Briseda Holgan has been talking to people on the scene. Briseda, what are folks telling you?
Now, Joe, I was able to talk with some woman who says her mother actually works in the meat department inside the Kroger. She has not been able to locate her mother, and I'm sure she's not the only one who is looking for a family member that was not only either an employee inside the Kroger or was shopping inside of the store. Now, I'm going to move out of the frame so you guys can see what the scene looks like. We've seen several people gather in prayer circles, what it looks like from a distance. Now,
Yeah, later on. I know the guy married to for a long. I can't get another tour. That's all right. Outside, I'll have that for you.
For our viewers who are just joining us, I'll take you through it. The call came in about 1:30 this afternoon. Collierville police say officers trying to move the Kroger realized it was an active shooter situation. SWAT team officers and other officers started coming from the store.
Whatever we got, I want y'all to know it. Get everything you can. Yeah.